And welcome to the Glacially Musical Podcast. It is beer, metal, and vinyl. Now that YouTube is cutting down on swearing, we are not going to swear, you mother flippers. So, thank you for joining us. I, of course, am Nick Cameron of Glacial Musical, and I am joined by my good friend, the man who always cuts everything down with logic, aplomb, and worrisome nervousness, Keefy Cuisinart. How we doing today, buddy?
I think even saying mother flipper at the start of the pod is not good. So
Oh,
anyway,
crap!
the joke landed for me, but I think even any pseudo swearing at the top is bad. I'm well, pal. How are you?
I am good. I am good. Could you speak a little bit? I probably should have.
Oh, I
Perfect. Okay, I'm good.
yeah,
So,
might take a second.
no,
I'll
no, perfect. Sorry, professionalism is job 17 on the Glacial Musical Podcast. We keep it loose, we keep it light. Here's how we do things. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are here for the meat of the episode, which today is Baroness, here is how we schedule out our episodes. We greet, we beer, we vinyl, we shirt, we news, then we eat the entree. So it is drinks, it is an appetizer, it is a salad, it is a soup, it is an entree. That is the Glacial Musical Podcast as a 7-course meal in a fancy restaurant. Today, the meat of the episode, of course, is the first full-length album by Baroness, which is Red. Baroness, whatever. The lady from Cobra, who was not like Duke's girlfriend in the canon. So, anyway, not gonna go there. So I'm
you
gonna.
you you brought it up, so now I'm going to interrupt the beer check with a quick anecdote about the GI Joe movies. I went to high school with Marlon Wayans, and I had the occasion to see him at one point after he did the movie. And I was like, dude, congratulations on the G.I. Joe movie. And he was like, yeah, I wasn't too excited about it I played with the toys and I read the book. And, he was like, if they weren't going to take the canon seriously, neither was I. He was
Oh,
Roadblock. He was
okay.
Roadblock in the movie. So
He was Roadblock.
I think he was Roadblock. He's more of, or
No,
maybe I have it wrong and
no,
was he
no, 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 no.
Stalker?
They made up one for him. He was not. His character
Oh,
was not in
okay.
the canon.
Oh,
Do me a
you know who is Roadblock? Adabisi from
yes.
Oz.
Do me a favor. Turn your gain on your microphone down just about a half cup.
All right. How about now? Checkity check,
Uh,
check, check.
better, a little bit more, a little bit
Here
more.
comes the rump shaker.
You
Do
are just
do 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 do.
you're distorting a little bit on me, and I
Oh
don't.
no.
I want those velvety Brooklyn tones all nice and clear. I'm gonna beer check now. I got my special pint glass, the pickle jar.
Why?
Okay, well, I've only got one other glass, and I don't want to be cheap. I don't want to be cheesy, but I've got the Glacially Musical pint glass. If since I can't use a pickle jar today, that's what I'm gonna go with. And being as I am cheap and in a soft spot in the budget, I am once again drinking the Trader Joe's Boatswain Double IPA. It is $5 for nearly a 9% double IPA. It does not have the sawdusty, malty, syrupy kind of hops. It's but it is delicious. And every time I go to Trader Joe's, I get at least 1 6-pack of it.
You talked over your own pop.
I'm fine with that. Fuck that. Fudge that pop.
We're still beer metal and swearing. We're just gonna have to swear creatively later in the episode. I think if we swear after the halfway point, after the news, we're probably in the clear, but we cannot swear at the top of the show. But anyway, not like we're monetized yet anyway here. We're trying to. We got beer glasses if you want to buy one and support the podcast. Maybe if we
Finger
sell
fudge pour.
yeah, if we sell enough of these things, we can buy vinyl. Maybe it will pay for Nick's Gimme Metal subscription club that we really need to do in May.
Oh, I will. Promises are made. Promises are made.
Or June. Yeah, May or June. All right. My beer, because I am also cheap and I have a lot of these beers in the fridge. I'm trying to run through these Deftones Belching Beaver beers that came in a case. So once again, I am drinking the Belching Beaver Digital Bath Deftones beer. Pop it up. I heard it.
I question whether or not that beer even opened.
Finger-fudge pour down the middle. Don't go no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Oh, look at that. didn't go over. I did explain the finger fudge pour to our previous guest there, Dennis Lars Torrent, and he was like, I never heard of that. But anyway, cheers, my friend.
Cheers. It is the YouTube Beer, Metal, and Vinyl Happy Hour. And as always, I am happy to be here. I am happy everyone joined us. If you don't mind, a subscription on day one, I get that's a lot to ask for. What I will ask you to do is a comment and a thumbs up. That is not too much. However, if you dig it, subscribe so you can come back next week, give us an 18 to 35 month trial. But I'm going to go ahead and vinyl check if you don't mind. If you don't mind if I go first. I'm going to drop a deuce this week. I'm going to start off with the Eurythmics. This is Savage. Had never heard this one before. If you take a look, it is already in the mylar packaging. It was got this at the antique mall. It was like $5 or $6, and apparently, I'll just buy any Eurythmics record I come across because you know what? They're awesome. Then no shame. Now, number two. Apparently, I was told you either love this record and you love this band, or you're a communist. I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the Allman Oh, sorry about that, everybody. The Allman Brothers live at the Fillmore. Spectacular. 2-disc set. This is unfortunately a set where it is disc 1 is side 1 and side 4. Disc 2 is side 2 and side 3. And as I don't have a mid-70s record player that flips it down automatically, it sucks. It sucks donkeys like Jesus rode into Nazareth or Jerusalem or wherever that was. So, but it is a great copy of the record. Eurythmics was $5. This was $12 at the Record Exchange. So it's in great shape. It sounds great, and it is a fun listen. You're not gonna, a great 1970s live record for $12. You're a fool to pass that up.
So that isn't, in fact, an original pressing. Is that right?
Oh yeah, it's a 70s pressing. It's the anytime you get a 1-4-2-3 pressing of a 70s record, it's always an original pressing. The only pressing I ever got that was 1-4-2-3 was Body Void, I Live in a Burning House. Because of the way the album lined up, they had to do it that way.
That is a good band. I believe they had a new record out recently. So Eurythmics, if I'm not mistaken, made the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year as well. And
I don't pay attention to it.
and yes, that Allman Brothers is a classic. I think it just had its 50th anniversary, which we'll talk about anniversaries in a second in the news. So I have a vinyl check and a quarter. Check this out. I did finally get proper inner sleeves. Look at these beautiful babies. These
I have those. Invest in Vinyl.
Invest in Vinyl, my favorite sleeve company. We're going to have a link in the description where you can buy Invest in Vinyl sleeves, just like me and Nick.
That's typically what I buy too.
Yeah, so I'm going to whip it out. This vinyl check this week is a cool one. Another lucky find, record store day, but after record store day. This is, what is this? This is Shadows Fall, The Art of Balance, which I was dying to get, as you know, major fan here. I lived in Massachusetts at the time of the rise of new wave of American metal in the early aughts, Unearthed, Killswitch Engage, this band, Lamb of God, not from the area, but still a lot of mass bands, Diecast. Incredible album, Idle Hands, Thoughts Without Words, Destroyer of Senses, Casting Shades, The Art of Balance title track, Stepping Outside the Circle, and that's just side one. Idiot Box, lots of cool stuff. Beautiful. Did not come with the mylar, but mine's already in a brand new inner sleeve on this very cool looking, I don't know if you would call this lime or snotty green.
I would call that ectoplasm green.
Ectoplasm green. It has a gorgeous lyrics and credits pullout, a insert with this beautiful liner notes and old photo passes and pictures and VIPs from that era of their touring. And it came with a bonus 45 here.
Nice. I have a Clash Combat Rock, which came with a bonus 45.
I'm jealous. And yeah, I think this is a cover.
You
And
should be jealous of that record and that pressing. I got it at a church fair for $10 along with 8 other records, and then somebody there gave me Talking Heads Remain in Light to trade for my Elvis record, which I didn't want, that I got in the raffle. It also came with a $10 iTunes gift card, which I gave to my wife. So basically, it was all free.
nice, nice work. Yeah, that's my vinyl check. That's it.
Spectacular.
Shirt check news or news shirt.
Let's shirt check real quick. I am wearing my Ramen Kitsune t-shirt. Love this shirt. I love ramen. Ended up having to work at the afternoon today at home. Oh my God, I had to. It was so awful. Oh, to be able to just spin Dark Side of the Moon without any idiots bugging me. Oh my God, it was awful. But because I didn't know what to do for lunch, I had an instant ramen package. It was imported from Japan. Goku Uma ramen noodles, hot and spicy flavor.
So you're now matching your shirt with food, is what you're saying.
Apparently that's what I do now
Okay then.
until tomorrow.
All right, that beer is very dark now. I have been going to a lot of metal shows. I have managed to go to 5 metal shows to start the year. I'm supposed to be going to less, but I have gone to 3 in the last week and a half. This shirt is Wolfheart, who is currently on tour with Flesh God Apocalypse and Obscura. That show was awesome. I also saw Boy Harsher. You know, I'm a big fan of the dancey synthwave, dance wave stuff, dark wave. And I also saw the first date of the Static X tour that Fear Factory did not make it to because of snow in the Los Angeles area. What the F?
I've got a concert scheduled for next week, which is El Perro, which is the semi-reformed Radio Moscow back on Alive Natural Sound Records, touring on their first album, Hair of, which is funny. El Perro, of course, is the dog in Spanish. Let's move on to the news. Where do you want to start?
I mean, we have to start with the granddaddy of them all.
All right.
It's already kind of spoiled, but I will allow it. You just go right ahead and knock it out, sir.
As we record this, today is March 1st, 19. I'm sorry, no, as we record this, take 7. It is March 1st, 2023. I got a text message from my child as I was driving to work after dropping her off at school. She said, Dad, it's March 1st. And I'm like, kid, what? And thankfully, the U man on KC95 reminded me so I could look smart. But I'll tell you, because we're all friends here, I wasn't that smart. I knew the 50th anniversary was coming up. Today is the 50th anniversary of quite possibly the greatest rock and roll record of all time. It is not my favorite Pink Floyd record. As everyone knows, I am a Wall stan. However, I also will defend Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon as Pink Floyd's best record all day long, just like how I can love Kiss, even though they're not the best at anything. And we'll get back to Kiss later. So today is 50 years, and I wrote some crazy words after I'd had about 8 or 9 beers, and apparently they came out well. So the Keefy published on Ghost Call today, shared that around. Hopefully you have seen it, and I am thankful, out of all of the eras of humanity, of all the eras of history, I am very thankful to be living in this one because I got to live in a world with Dark Side of the Moon from the day I was born till today.
Perfect. No notes. Nothing to add. I will add that I am slightly older than Dark Side of the Moon, which is making me feel funny. But I'm now at the age where I'm older than some of my favorite records that have come out, as they're now all about to hit. But anywho, moving right along, is going to keep this fast and tight today on the news. Let's talk about the brand new Metallica single that dropped today as we record this. If Darkness Had a Sun.
Oh, you know what? It is very much in line with the first 2 tracks we've gotten on this record. It is very much that thrashy kind of a stomp. It is there was a band, and I forget their name, which is frustrating, who did a new wave of British heavy metal rock band. And this is like that. It's a new wave of British heavy metal, slowed down a little bit, good and stompy, nice dirgy. And I've never said this before, but Lars's drum sound is amazing on this one. He's playing a little bit less, and that less becomes more. Kirk Hammett's solos so far on the 3 songs we have heard have been immaculate. The tasteful use of the wah-wah, which is also something I've never said about Metallica.
So true, so true. Yes, 7 minutes long, pretty heavy metal. Kind of reminded me of Cyanide, those kind of vibes a little bit. Um,
Reminded me of House That Jack Built and 2x4, that kind of stuff, but more Metallica than those things were.
yeah, Black Album and Kill 'Em All vibes. No, pretty good lyrics. Again, it's a concept record, so we're getting the concept a little at a time. It's gonna not really, probably not gonna be able to see the whole thing until we hear the whole thing together because lyrically they have never done a whole concept album, truly.
Are
And
we
so
getting the songs in order?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
haven't really checked, but I did like the use of Metallica teased the song with a series of TikToks that went viral for Metallica, not like dance moves, 100 millions of hits Metallica viral, but like 2 million a video. That's pretty neat what they did. So I liked it. They did the Duet with Me feature on TikTok, and then they dropped the song today. I think we will get at least two more singles between now and April 14th. What say you?
Today is March 1st, April 14th. The album was announced in December. We've gotten three. They are going, honestly, they're going slower than I expected. We are now about 3 months. No, I take that back. We're 3 months in. No, we're 4 months in. December, January, February. We're into March. We're in the
Yeah,
fourth month.
I think we just started the fourth month. It was technically November 30th when they dropped the first news and single, and then we lived with that until the end of December. So we went a whole month, like mid January for the
Oh, I,
second one.
I guess we're going about 30 days apart
Yeah,
then.
30, 40 days each. So I think two more singles, maybe three if they're
I
feeling
don't.
froggy.
I think only one.
Okay. Well, I'm happy about it. And are you going to go to the global theater listening party on the day before?
No, no.
I might. I just might because I like
I
doing
feel
those
like I'm
things.
already paying you $40 for the record that ships the next day. That I don't need to pay you $20 to hear it the day before.
I mean, I'm kind of hoping we get it before. That's also
I
possible.
I won't actually cancel Prime.
Oh no,
It hit, and I'm looking at it going $150 now. I didn't know that it had creeped up that high.
that's interesting. I'm not paying that much, but I don't know what all the services you use and have are. So
I just have Prime, just Prime, just.
it seems odd that it's so much money. Mine is not that much money at all.
Yeah, that's why I
You should
went. I
look at
looked at that
you
and
should
went
go into
weird.
your settings and I think you're getting charged for other things that you're not using, like
Mm.
Prime. If you ordered groceries once, they start charging you for Prime Fresh. If you
Oh,
want, yeah, you should really go into your settings and you're really examine your Prime because they probably owe you some money.
all right.
That's
Well, I canceled and refunded. I might restart it. It's kind of like I'm dealing with the MLS thing where I can't watch our new soccer team unless I pay for MLS subscription fee for because they've completely eradicated home broadcasts, which is stupid. But so I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it definitely until at all. Well, no, now I'm not going to do it till the XFL season is over.
do
Now
you
I'm
do
like, no, I'm not doing it till payday.
forgive me, do you I'm sure the audience is riveted by this segment of the conversation. Do you have like Roku and you cast or something
Yeah.
like Amazon Fire Stick? So why don't you look into YouTube Premium and then get your soccer channel? It's cheaper.
No, no, no. You can't watch your team unless you pay the subscription.
I see.
You
Okay.
can only watch the national broadcast once a week.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right then. I don't know
No,
what I'm talking
believe
about.
me, I've looked into it and I've talked to everyone.
I only like football that's shaped like Stewie from Family Guy's head, not the other one.
I like football and
Not
football.
not Wilson from Castaway.
Okay, which of my teams am I talking about? The football team is 2-0.
No idea.
The football team is 1-0.
I have no idea.
Football is the Battlehawks 2-0, and football is St. Louis City SC, which is 1-0. Anywho, let's move on to the next bit of news.
Do we have a third news thing?
We
Oh
have a
yes, of
third
course
news
we do.
story.
You take it.
It has been announced. Kiss has announced their final concerts, their second round of final concerts, as they had final concerts in. Well, I don't even remember what year it was at this point. I want to say 02. Then they came back in 03, and they've never been gone. So basically, they anyway. Gene says they've never retired, which is true. because they didn't stay dormant long enough for it to be considered a retirement. So they have announced their last two concerts will be at Madison Square Garden in the first week of December. There are a lot of people that are quite disappointed about this because it feels like that Kiss's last couple of shows should be outdoors at Yankee Stadium or at Citi Field. But I would wager they probably don't think they can fill it, or they would have done it.
I'm going to tell you, the press release literally had a quote from them that they met for the first time and formed the band about 12 blocks away from the Garden. The Garden is important to them. They felt like they made it when they played the Garden the first time. The Garden is very special to them. I suspect those two shows are going to sell out immediately, and they probably have plans, depending on the Knicks or Rangers schedule, they are probably going to block that whole week and have more than two shows at the end.
If they do that, hopefully it's ahead of the first two shows.
It's possible. Behind. Yeah, chances are, again, I'm not familiar with the schedules for later this year.
Right. Well, they're not out yet.
I had hoped to be in attendance for the final Kiss shows. I will probably not be, to be honest, because if I'm going to New York at all this year, it's going to be in late summer, not before or after. So
I have sworn them off live forever. I cannot deal with Paul's lip syncing.
Yeah.
He lip syncs. He can call it what he wants.
He has to. And I'm going to say I saw 10 minutes of Kiss a couple of months back, and I'm really all good. I saw them 5 years ago, and they were solid, but I left early to beat the traffic. So at a festival. So I'm really good. I'm really good.
Yeah, I'm good. One of the things about being a Kiss fan in the later stages is it's a continual lowering of your standards. And now they have become the thing that they have spent 20 years arguing against. I chose to stay away. And if you cannot do that, that is fine. However, I can. I saw them. I saw them when they were still good.
I did too.
I would do you want to remember, would you rather remember Carlton Fisk on the White Sox just barely hanging on to beat Johnny Bench's record? Or would you rather remember him 1976 Red Sox waving at the foul pole? So that is all my news this week.
Yeah, I'm good.
You know what?
I have one last.
Before we move on, let me just say, pour one out for the boys from New York for Kiss. Regardless of what they have done, what they have become, what they have said they wouldn't be, what blah, 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 whatever. It has still been an amazing career, full of a lot of amazing songs and a couple amazing records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers it up. Cheers and beers. I was going to say before you did that, it's not a news item, but I just want to share. Since we did our last recording, which was a few weeks ago, I am now in possession of the Vic Rattlehead Funko. So I just want to share one more. I unboxed this on a recent live stream, and I just want to share with everybody that it's really cool. And he has it's the Rust in Peace Vic Rattlehead, and he has the little piece of fusion.
That's the best Vic Rattlehead.
The Ed Repka.
But I mean, that's the best Megadeth. That is
let's tack on a quick little addendum to Megadeth and say Megadeth reunited with Marty Friedman in Japan this last weekend, and I've been watching the live stream, and it was amazing. And people were wildly predicting he was going to come back in the band, which is far-fetched.
No, he has made a career for himself in Japan. His entire backing band is Japanese. He speaks Japanese.
He lives down the block from Budokan. He has no interest in heavy metal. It was cool. He said it was very cool for him to reconnect. He still plays
metal, but he plays instrumental metal now.
He's not interested in, his exact words was, "I'm not interested in carrying the flag for traditional heavy metal at all.
Fair.
I'm not responsible for thrash, and it's not my thing anymore." So he
does not play thrash.
So, but it was great. They played with 3 guitar players for 3 songs, including Countdown to Extinction, which Megadeth has not played in 10 years, which means they rehearsed it and they know it. So I really hope it stays in the set list because it's an awesome song. They did Tornado of Souls, which they still do on occasion, with Marty, and everybody was just agog at Marty, and literally he hadn't really practiced, apparently, and just came in and knew the songs. And Dave and him, they were both very humble. And I will tell you, this is really cool. In the behind the scenes, Dave called Kiko and said, "Hey, we're playing Japan for the first shows of 23, and we have this opportunity to bring Marty on to play with the whole band. How do you feel about this? Because I want you to like, what do you mean I'm not kind? Just not your kind. Mustaine coming through with like the kindness and the consideration for Kiko's feelings, which really says a lot about Kiko and Dave.
Very cool. I was lucky enough to see Marty at Fubar, which is now Red Flag, a couple of years ago. Amazing show. If you have the opportunity to see him, definitely check it out.
All right, then let's get into the meat of the matter. If you have nothing else, sir,
I have nothing else, and I will let you lead this week. It is
I
your
will.
choice.
I
It
will.
is your
I
week.
will. Yeah, I will. I will lead. I feel like it was. I did give you options for the. I know this is technically my series, but I also led the last series.
Well, yeah, I
Adam-
mean, technically, okay, fine. I will do some leading.
No, I don't need. I don't need you to at all unless you really want to.
Now I demand it.
Oh no, I don't want that.
Well, until you decide that I'm not doing a good enough job, then you take over and let's start off. We are talking about Savannah, Georgia's Baroness. And
technically they're from Philly now, but like they started out in Savannah. I'll do the table setting because I planned this out and practiced this a little.
Okay, go ahead.
So the band technically is formed, I'm gonna say in the early aughts, maybe 2003, 2004, when the early members of the band, John Dyer Baisley and Summer Welch, worked in a record store. John was at Savannah School of Design because he's a fine artist and a painter, which everyone knows his artwork and his painting across all of his run of albums. And the scene, just to give you an idea of Savannah, is a very rich scene for rock, metal, and psychedelic rock. So you have at the same time, Mastodon is already becoming known. They're not from Savannah, they're from Atlanta, but these bands are kind of interrelated. Kylesa starts about this time, led by Philip Cope, who would produce a lot of the early Baroness records, and vis-a-vis, John did a lot of artwork for Kylesa early and continuing until their demise. Rest in power. Black Tusk is from Savannah, another related, similar band, more sludgy and less psychedelic, but still heavy as heck. And some other bands along the way, but those are the major ones. And
I would throw out Royal Thunder.
Oh yeah, I mean, Royal Thunder is a little later, but also fantastic band. New album coming this summer. Very excited for them. Maybe we need to do a Royal Thunder run at some point, but I'm probably going to cry my eyes out at a certain point. Some of those songs really, they get you in the heart.
I'll say this: Mindy Parsons is amazing, and I'm going to stop there.
Yeah. So the band forms, and they release a couple of splits and EPs. Their first couple of EP releases are First and Second. This guy likes cycles of things. Then they did a split release called A Gray Sigh in a Flower Husk. And
that is not just so on brand.
Right. And that was a split with Unpersons, who's a pretty cool noise rock band. And what's really interesting about Baroness is from very early on, they were very careful. They had like a vision. It's clearly John's band, but it was kind of an early lineup of the band was kind of a certain way between him and the guitar, him and Summer on guitar or bass. And one of the guys in Unpersons later on becomes the bassist of Baroness, by the way. But I think, leading up to, they're a band, they don't repeat themselves. And this is true to today. They really don't they don't really do the same vibe over and over. And so they begin, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but their albums, starting with 2007's Red, that we're going to discuss at length today, they begin doing the color wheel, because of course they do, because John is a painter and has done artwork for not just his band, but award-winning, acclaimed artwork for many other bands, shirts, but mainly album artwork that he paints and then is recreated for album art. So pretty incredible. And, again, there's John was in John's early bands that's kind of unknown is called Johnny Welfare and the Paychecks, which is a nice nod to Johnny Paycheck. and was more of a punk rock band and less nuanced, big stoner rock or stoner doom heavy metal that this is.
I'm
If
gonna jump in real quick
you go
before
ahead.
we get too far away from this. I want to compliment John on he paints the album covers. I believe you said that. And another band that I know where somebody in the band paints the covers is Ambassador, and both of these out of Baton Rouge, they are another post metal band, very similar to Baroness even. And the thing about both of these bands, both of their covers, is they're some of the best album covers in rock and metal today. And dudes in the band are making them, and I am surprised more bands don't do that.
Yeah, I had previously, no longer have, but I had a giant framed signed yellow and green print that they sold at a show, and I was hanging in my home for many years. I no longer am in possession of it, unfortunately.
I do
But
wish he would lay off the boobies because Facebook gets a little irritated.
I'm gonna have to figure out. We can have the album covers, but I wonder when I make the album specific covers for us if I do them or not, because I don't know if that's going to affect us. But yes, there is some nudity. Um, he likes birds and snakes and knives and naked females.
Semi
Semi
naked
nude.
females dressed up, white women dressed up as whacked out natives from like sexy Yukon territories.
Okay,
Where they're
maybe.
wearing furs, but not much of them.
Yeah, or flowers as an
Yeah.
entire ensemble. Like
Yeah.
Lady Gaga's fashion team saw these album covers and was like that, all that. Um,
It's an odd vibe, but it's a cool vibe.
it
I can't hear you.
muted myself. They go to make Red after a few, they signed a relapse. Philip Cope of Kylisa, who their early albums were also, I think their first release was on relapse, so that might have helped. They recorded this in the spring of '07, so already you have kind of we earlier mentioned Shadows Fall, so you have this kind of like American hardcore metalcore metal that's also inspired by like Swedish melodic death metal. And then you have this new brand of metal in America that is not related to any of these things, but there is kind of a stoner rock, sludge, progressive metal, but also like a weird Zeppelin-y, Thin Lizzy, classic rock twin guitar harmony, Allman Brothers thing.
That is the
Uh,
best description of what we're talking about I've heard yet. And I mean, I've listened to Red a bunch of times. I'm a fan of Baroness, and I really have no idea what they are.
mm, Not bad. So yeah, we're gonna find out what they are. I think that what they are evolves over time. And they definitely evolve over time. So they go in and this album, we'll talk about accolades later, but yeah, I just think it's very interesting. This is really they really go big here for their first full length debut. It is 11 songs. It never feels that long. The last track's kind of like a weird final track kind of thing, experimental track, but with some silence and some, 11 minutes of silence and then like a minute of a reprise of a theme. There's a theme on most of their records that is recurring musically, which I find interesting, like Queen or Zeppelin would do. And yeah, there's some big rock stuff going on here as
the
well.
The difference in how Baroness does it versus Queen or Zeppelin is Queen or Zeppelin do it for a side, but Baroness does not come up in the era of sides, even though they have released everything on vinyl. I've got not the first two, but the last three. So their themes, their it's an entire record rather than a side, which
Well done. Do you have anything to add, or should we just dive into the track by track?
well, the thing about Baroness is I first heard about them in when they were doing press for Yellow and Green, which we will get to in 2 weeks. And that was when I was trying really hard to get back in the new music, to dig myself deeper, where I was hearing new stuff, and I'm like, Baroness, okay. Well, I was reading Guitar World, I was playing guitar again, and I'm, if you play guitar, you got to buy Guitar World, so I subscribed. So my goal was each month I was going to buy one record that I heard about from Guitar World, and that was when Yellow and Green came out. And I mean, I am a sucker for a good deal. I got the $5 double IPA. I'm gonna buy the $12 double record. So I bought Yellow and Green and fell in love immediately. Saw them on the tour. We'll discuss that when we get. We'll discuss that when we get there. But to this day, they are such a rough band to pigeonhole. You know, there's not that over the top harsh vocals of modern metal. There's not the overarching solos of classic metal, but it's still very decidedly metal while having interludes of not remotely being metal and having this kind of softer touch. They're a metal band with a very soft touch, and I that's the only way I can describe it. Where they're very sensitive, and very heavy at the same time.
There's a lot of light and shade, and I will say, unintentionally, there's a lot of late era Zeppelin kind of vibes going through the whole history. And I mentioned John's prior band because he really is kind of like in his heart. He's an artist, but he's a punk rock guy. So he's very radical politically, and he's always wearing like very underground punk rock and anarchist shirts. And then his lyrics are very abstract and obtuse and like poetic. But he's also like later on records, he's like very strips that down a little bit, and he's like, very matter of fact lyrically. But his early records are like little tone poems lyrically, which are interesting.
I would liken it to Dio. The child and I listened to Dio's Last in Line today, and I forget what song it was. And the kid says to me, Dad, what is he singing about? No one knows. No one knows what Dio is ever singing about. And that's how Baroness is for quite a while. I wouldn't, even on Yellow, I would say it doesn't until we get into Green, on Yellow and Green, that there starts to be, a coherent, intelligible by someone who's not John thought. I'm sure I'm certain he completely understands it. The rest of us, however, are like, okay, take my bones away. I don't really know, dude. Okay. But you know what? We'll take them. I don't think he meant that literally.
He does not mean much of this literally. I think it's all fantastical, and it's probably meaningful to him, which is why he's not so on the nose and pointed. Moving on. Let's go through the track by track. I will make this as quick and painless as humanly possible. Again, 11 songs doesn't really feel like 11 songs.
The album itself is 44 and a half minutes long, which is just a perfect chef's kiss. Nailed it for a record. I was actually talking to Duncan about this on the DMA last week. Most of us in the world don't listen to albums like you, me, Duncan all the time. So when you have an album going long, most people will get ear fatigue. So you really got to get that, as the comedian would put it, the tight 20. And I whenever somebody hits that properly in the modern era, in the CD era, where you've got 80 minutes you could throw on that damn thing, but you just hold it back, you just get that right amount. Perfect. Thank you.
Exactly. So pretty much all music is composed by the entire band, all lyrics written and credited to John. And so the album begins with a very slow swell of instrumentation on the track Raise on Pinion. The total length of the track is 7:35, but I think the actual full song is about 4 minutes because there's this big build-up that starts with like guitar effects, and then it kind of becomes a big song. This is a theme, a recurring thing for them for a while. And Raise on Pinion, can't tell you what it's about, but great guitar stuff, wonderful melodic rock. stoner rock, kind of 70s, 80s rock metal, but like with like heavy when it needs to be heavy, tremendous groove and tremendous guitar stuff all over this record as on this song.
I'm going to disagree with that just a little bit. This song to me is very much influenced by Randy Rhoads, but he took the Randy Rhoads idea of melding classical music into the heaviness by using the actual orchestra, the Broadway show, the beginning of the symphony, the tune up, where you just hear this song, which is basically meaningless, but it's powerful because it is the call. It's the dinner bell. Make sure you're there when this hits. And that's the feeling the first few minutes of this song give you, because it just as you put it, it slowly swells. And that swelling is tense and almost painful, because you're just like, come on. And then when they do hit it, you finally get to meet what Baroness is. And it is this, well, it's nothing like the swell, and it's nothing like you would probably think it should be. It's this brand new thing, which is great. Great opening track.
I'm also going to say, I think if you're an impatient listener, like Nick just alluded to, he is, you're going
Oh,
to
completely.
struggle. You're going to struggle with this band as a whole if you're not very patient, because they let ideas develop. They take their time. Everything is purposeful, and they're not rushing to get into a song until many albums from now.
I am impatient when I don't know you. If I know you and I know you're a band that does 35-minute tracks or 2-track records, look, I got you and I love you. And once I get into that, I'm fine. What if I don't know that, then I get like, come on, get to it. But he won me over in that first song.
I see Nick literally standing over his record player going, come on, let's get to it.
I don't have this one.
Yeah, with no, well, so the tragedy of this entire series is I have all of these on vinyl, none of them in California. Not only do I have them all on vinyl, I have all four singles from Purple on vinyl, all with different artwork designs and deluxe everything, and I have none of them here to share. So there'll be a future when I have my records back, and I'll hopefully will be around and I'll get to share them. Without a break, feeling like almost a continuation of Raison Pinion, The Birthing, which also would have worked as an opening track. It is marvelous. It's a little once it finally kicks in, you'll hear me say that a bit. It really takes over. John has a very strong voice. It's not a typical rock or metal voice, which is why I feel like Baroness really lives. They can do other genres, but they live in stoner rock and heavy metal for a while, because John has an atypical voice, but not unlike John Garcia of Caius, and not unlike Josh Homme, and not unlike again, the greats of the genre who do stoner rock. But yeah, The Birthing kicks all kinds of ass as a rock song.
Completely agree. I would throw in there is some great wah wah psychedelia in this one, channeling my inner Duncan, who always finds psychedelia in everything. And great track. It, yes, is a continuation, yes, but I would say this entire record, it's it's building. The first track, or the first 3 minutes of the first track, is the porch, and then by the time they finish track 2, the living room is completed. They're building a house, they're building a vibe, and that's awesome.
Indeed. Also, again, along with a similar vein, Isaac, which was technically kind of a single-ish for the genre, not quite a released as a single, but Isaac to me feels like the hit. It's the third track of the record. It's short. It's about 4.5 minutes. It's super catchy, and it's got this really glorious. His voice sounds like a trumpet. It's like he's like announcing the song. I don't know who Isaac is with one S, but it's something. And the track again, rocking, great riffs, great harmony solo, and a lot of killer stuff on this one.
One of the things I don't know if we have mentioned enough, because you had mentioned in the first couple of tracks, there's some great guitar stuff, there's some great riffs. There is it's and maybe it's just because I listened to Cream right afterwards, but I listened to Fresh Cream today, and that album, the way it's mixed, the way it's panned, reminds me a lot of this album because it's very separated. There are guitar parts where they don't mesh at all, and track 3 really demonstrates that, how disjointed and awkward and antagonistic it is, that those little tinks and donks that are all over this. And I'm getting excited. I am
You are.
getting excited, and
You are.
I love this band. I'm sorry, I don't know if I want to let the cat out of the bag just yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I am never shy about my feelings about this band. It's going to be, I'm trying to find holes in a thing that I a lot of times think is flawless.
The only thing I can tell you is each album, a little bit of differentiation would go a long way.
I think upon re-listening, you will see they're a little different, and I have a similar point about this album. I will make at the end. The next track is the longest, if you don't count the track with 11 minutes of silence.
I don't count that.
Wailing Wintry Wind, track 4, is a little under 6 minutes long, and it's a little more developed. I think it's a cool track. I think it's a little less immediate than the first 3, which might have been on purpose. And it's good. It's very good. I think compared to it's a little bit of a dip after those first 3 that are like 3 incredible songs. It's a good track, Wailing Wintry Wind. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
We're at good but not great territory. Any good musician will tell you this is where tracks go to die. We are past the 20-minute mark, and that's where you put your lower stuff, because by that time that's where you put Trapped Under Ice. Moving on.
Fair enough. I believe the final track on the vinyl side is Cockroach and Fleur, and it is the first of many to come in the band's history, instrumental tracks and little segues and fillers, very Zeppelin-y and very Floydian, this track, with beautiful guitar parts and almost a movie soundtrack Spanish guitar kind of thing.
This whole record is very Zeppelin-y or Floydian. It's it's coincidental, not ironic, Alanis Morissette, that today is the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon, and we're talking about this album. Dark Side of the Moon, if you really don't know it and you haven't heard it a squillion times, Us and Them does sound like Time. Time does sound like Breathe. It's there. I mean,
well,
they took their long form stuff and they chopped it into little bits. I get that. It's 2112 basically.
Yeah, this go ahead.
And that's how Led Zeppelin was on Led Zeppelin 1 and Led Zeppelin 2 and Led Zeppelin 3. Is it really wasn't a series of songs as much as it was this stream of consciousness with minimal writing chopped up into digestible bits. And that's how this album is. And that's one of the things that's its greatest, that's the greatest, accolade I can give it, but it's also its biggest drawback too.
Right. I want to say technically we kind of skipped over it, but you alluded to something else that's coming back. There's a motif in the birthing that is repeated throughout the album that later fully develops into its own song. And so there's kind of like a musical, sort of a musical bit that comes back again and again for them. So, yeah, they're really good at this. I will tell you that the real psychedelic band of this scene is Kylesa, who has a keyboard player and a theremin and multiple drummers and wild guitar stuff. So, if we someday do Kylesa, you would be in for a treat. I know you're not familiar with them, other than that Philip here is the producer.
And the theremin.
Yeah.
What, so, who said that?
I don't know. So Wanderlust is the next track, and technically Wanderlust had a video, so maybe that's the single, and it's also a little straight ahead, about 4:30 again, and Wanderlust is like a straight up rocker, not too much stretching out on this one. It's pretty straight ahead.
It's nice to get a bit of a diversion. It's one of the things about being a brand new band is, especially if you're on a large record label, perhaps like, I don't know, Relapse Records, they want to sell they want to sell some discs, they want to make some money here. So it's important to have that statement song that's digestible. You can't put out a 9-minute single in 2007 that has 3 minutes of it's going to get you nowhere. So that's what this is. You've got to have the single. Get it, got it, good.
Yeah, I don't think they wrote thinking of singles, and I certainly don't think Relapse surely does not care about money looking at the albums they put out, but I know what you're saying. You're not wrong.
You've got to have a little bit of, I mean, it's to quote George Shapiro, playing the owner of the Comedy Store, show business.
Right.
Without the business, there is no show. Uh-oh. I'm gone.
You
I'm
disappear
back.
again? I'll make a
I
suggestion to you about how you can avoid being gone.
I could just wiggle the mouse sometimes.
You don't, well, there's that, and there's another technique. I think I'm wiggling the mouse too much because I'm losing my screen behind me.
Alrighty.
Moving right along. Elf. I think it's it's like either an old English elf or it's a Tolkien thing. Another sort of straight ahead guy. It's a little more interesting musically, like a little more dynamic than Wanderlust, but it's, again, we're into solid territory. Not great, but it's still good.
We are into good, not compelling. Moving on.
Fair enough.
But there's nothing wrong with that. That's the part of the record we're in. That's every record.
Yeah. And then coming back up on the slope, even though these are two shorter and, sort of, you might think they're not important or good, Teeth of a Cogwheel is an incredible instrumental. I would put it up there with like Lies by Down, or maybe Great Gig in the Sky. It's that good. It is a great instrumental. It's only 2 minutes long. It's beautiful guitar stuff, incredible drums. Oh, Appalachia is the next track. We'll just bundle them for this purpose. Is another short little ditty that I think is an idea that recurs over and over for this band and for John on Blue. And maybe also on Blue and Green, specifically Yellow and Green, excuse me. So yeah, those two tracks, any feelings?
Not strong ones. I mean, it's a lot of samey. I mean, which makes sense. And I might have blown my load earlier on how excited I was. I'm still excited. Don't get me wrong. It's just we're not getting. It's movements. It's not. This album to me is more movements than it is songs.
Okay, that's not unfair.
It's the way he sings, which I love his vocals. Please do not misunderstand. This is not a complaint. This is not anything like that. His lyrics do not always come to the forefront with the way he sings. The way he sings, the emotion is more powerful than the words itself. And that's a great feeling. There's a lot of singers in this world have made a lot of money on that. But lyrics are on the back burner. There's great guitar work, there's great riffing, there's great musical interplay, but each song, like I said at the beginning, the swell is the porch. We are getting to that. We're almost getting ready to build that garage and put the for sale sign up, and I have enjoyed every step so far.
Fair enough. So the final official track on the record is Grad, which is the aforementioned fulfillment of the theme that keeps coming back. And Grad is in the top 3 or 4 songs on the album. Grad is amazing. It's about 6 minutes long, and it is epic. It is an epic rock song in the Queen, Lizzie, Zeppelin, Sabbath. It's in that class. I don't know what it means, but it is triumphant sounding, like almost could have been on the soundtrack to Troy, and which I come back to a lot. And then the untitled track at the end has kind of a, sort of a return motif of the Grad motif again. So they bookend the album with this musical idea. It's woven through the album. Grad is no worse than the fourth best song on this whole album. And I do think that the eighth and ninth tracks are important. And I'll tell you why in a second, but I wanted to get your take on Grad.
I loved Grad. Grad is a great way to end the record. The stream I listened to because I've got it, I've got it on digital, and there's been issues with my computer after my cats blew it out by dumping a bottle of water on it, so I don't have it. It's on anyway. So I was streaming, did not get the 11-minute pause, so I apologize for not having any specific concept on that, but I love the way this record ended. And, as I've always said, middle of the sides is where your songs go to die. And the tracking of this record is perfect. It's got a bell curve, it's got an inverted bell curve. It starts high, goes down, and then it finishes on a real strong end. It's never, and I'm just going to sum it up now as well. If you don't mind, I will let you finish it out. It never gets very heavy. It never gets terribly melodic. It always straddles. It's and when I say this, this record doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know what lane it's trying to be in. 99 times out of 100, that is an insult. In this case, that is perfection, because they have found a new lane that nobody else had found. They found a new version of a genre of music. And that's what I love about this album and every album going forward, is they have forged a new, albeit familiar path. It's not wildly different, but it is different enough to stand out. It is a wonderful beacon, and I love this record. I absolutely love this, and I am only going to get happier as time goes on until I'm not, and I won't tell you when that is till it hits.
All right. I think one thing to note here on this album is that if you didn't have those interludes and those instrumental tracks, the heavy songs, because there's no key changes, they do feel like not repetitive riff or song making wise, but just the sound of the guitars on the record is unchanging. Like they dialed them in on the first day of the studio and never changed them.
Yeah, it's definitely set and forget it.
I don't want to say samey because the songs are definitely not samey, but if you didn't have those chill parts, which are a trademark of the band now, they weren't always, because Blue is mostly heavy. We'll get to next week, but the reality is if you didn't have those little valleys, the peaks would be less high and strong.
Completely agree. I will just disagree slightly. Yes, it is samey, but I feel like it's samey on purpose in a good way. However, there's an I'm gonna shut up. I'm foreshadowing too much.
No, you're fine.
There's an album coming up later where it is far too samey.
Well, we're gonna fight about that one. So anyway, I will say this album for me is a high 8, a high strong 8, and that's for their debut on the strength of the 5 or 6 outstanding, incredible songs, and then the couple of interludes, including that one that's the double guitar thing that is mind-blowing to me. And this was the Revolver album of the year for 2007. 2007 had a preponderance of great rock and metal albums, and this was the album of the year as their debut. So the bar was set very high in the press very early on.
Hey, it's like Wayne Gretzky, man. He comes out, hits 100 points his first year. And a debut record goes one of two ways typically. It's either your launch pad or your zenith. That's all I'll say this week.
All right. That's very fair. I have no other notes on the album or anything else. Do we have anything else to remark about the very first Baroness record? The artwork is incredible. Again, very, very typical of a John. He set the bar right off the bat, and he had already been doing this style. He'd been doing albums for other people, albums for their own stuff, albums and shirts for themselves and other people. But this artwork is awesome and is a portent of all the things to come soon.
The last thing I will say is this album, in terms of establishing brand, establishing name identity, perfection. This is every album that comes after this relates to this album in some way. Every cover relates to this cover. So the visual and musical aspects of Baroness are completely formed on Red. And that's, a lot of bands didn't do that. Metallica didn't do that. Pink Floyd didn't do that. Led Zeppelin didn't do that.
It's true. And with that, I don't know whose turn it is to take us out.
I believe it is my turn.
All right, then you do it.
So I will say thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, please like and comment on YouTube. Subscribe if you have enjoyed this, which hopefully you have. I know if we have enjoyed it if you've enjoyed this half as much as we have enjoyed bringing it to you, then we have enjoyed it twice as much as you. As we always say, this is the Glacially Musical Podcast. It does not play in Peoria.